Now, this section is all about starting a new project. Now, when I'm talking about starting a new project, whenever you open up Camtasia, the very first thing that you'll see is the home screen. So we'll talk exactly about what the home screen is and how to navigate and start new projects from the home screen. We'll then dive into the recorder user interface. This is the user interface that you'll use in order to start recording your screen. And so we'll talk exactly how to get a recording started, how to stop it, how to pause it, and do other things like that. And then we'll dive into the editor UI, which is the user interface, and explore exactly the different parts of the editor. We won't start editing our videos at this point, but I just want to give you an overview of the editor so you're ready to go once we dive into that part. And then we'll dive into saving your project. This is probably key when you're wanting to make updates and changes. You need to know where that project file is. And so we'll make sure you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say project file and where to save that project file. Then we'll start talking about importing assets into your project. This is different media files or audio files or other video files and putting them into your project. We'll talk all about that. And then we'll get into creating a theme. I think it's good to establish a theme before you start creating your videos. So when you start to use shapes and you start to use callouts and you start to use other things, it can adapt to your company's theme. It can adapt to your company's colors and text and everything. So we'll dive into that and what themes are. And then finally, we'll start talking about using some of the templates, the content that comes out of the box with Camtasia and how you can take advantage of that to really speed up some time. So that's what we're going to be covering in this section. Let's go ahead and start out with the home screen next. All right, so we're going to dive right in and start Camtasia. So I'm just going to double click on the icon here. You can also search for it within your applications if you wanted to launch it from there. So the first thing that comes up is your home screen. Now your home screen will have the options to start a new project. So you can start one right from scratch and go right into the editor UI. You can open up an existing project or start a new recording, as well as start a new project in Audiate and Snagit, which we'll cover at a later point. You can also see any recent projects that you've already been working on and just launch your projects from here. You can start from templates. There are a lot of different templates that we're going to explore throughout this certification. You can also get free assets as well as premium assets. We'll talk about that in a later video. The next section over on the left-hand side is the Learn section. Now in the Learn section, you'll have a quick start guide, so you can see some quick tutorials as well as all tutorials. You can get access to the certification, come back to the certification and continue working on it. You can also choose a project and work on a specific project. You can see any upcoming webinars and get access to the Academy as well. Now, if you're having any trouble with Camtasia, you can also go into the support section and get online help. You also can get access to the tech support, as well as the keyboard shortcuts. This is one of my favorite things. If you're going to be working with Camtasia a lot, keyboard shortcuts is going to save you a whole lot of time. Now, as I go throughout this course, I'm going to be telling you about some of those keyboard shortcuts, but this is where you can see all of them to begin with. Now, the next section tells you about what's new. Camtasia gets updated all the time. This is where you can check out any new features that are available. And so this allows you to see the new feature, to try it out as well. So it's good to come in here and just take a look at what's new and what's available in the recent updates of Camtasia. Down at the bottom left-hand side will be your Techsmith account. And if you're any type of specific subscriber as well, you can explore the benefits on that. We're going to come back to the home screen, and I'm going to go up here and we're going to talk about some of these different sections. The first thing we're going to talk about is the recorder UI. As soon as I click on the recorder UI, what's available when I'm about to start recording my screen. So let's talk about that next. Now that we've had a quick walkthrough of the home page, let's go ahead and dive into some of the specific areas that we're going to be working with. First of all, let's talk about the recorder UI. So I'm going to click on New Recording here. And this will take me right to the recorder UI. Now, this is where I can specify certain things of what I want to have recorded. So I have 4 different sections here. I have which screen I want to be recorded. This is especially useful if you have multiple screens. You can select the drop-down box of which screen you want to actually have selected. You can toggle whether you want that screen to be on or off. And then the different features here, we have the camera, we have a microphone that may be plugged in, and then we have system audio. Now that is any audio that's actually coming from your computer. Now we'll dive into the specifics of each of these options and how to adjust our screen recording in a future video. I'm just walking you through kind of the basic overview of this recorder UI. Now I can toggle things off and on. That will enable my camera, that will disable my camera as well, that will enable system audio or disable system audio. I can also go into the tools and preferences here, or I can also select the capture, which will record camera and so forth. Pretty much does the same thing as these toggle buttons down here. Now, as soon as I'm ready to go ahead and start recording, all I have to do is click on record here. It's going to give me a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then now it's recorded. Now you'll see this bar right here that you can move around as you're recording. This is essentially your controls as you're recording. This will not be recorded in the final output here. Now we'll cover all of those different options in detail in a later video, but as soon as I click on the stop icon, it's going to pull up my project UI and it will have my recording ready to go, and we'll take a look at that here in a second. All right, so here's my editor UI. That screen recording has already been added to my timeline here, and now I can start editing my timeline. Now that's a quick overview of the recorder UI. In the next video, let's go ahead and take a quick look at this editor UI that we're in right now. Now that we have the editor UI pulled up, let's go ahead and take a look at the different sections that you'll be working with when you're wanting to edit your video. Now this project started from a screen recording, so I already have my media on the timeline, and it starts me out with the media bin here, where I can drag out another copy of that video, but again, it's already started on the timeline for me, and that happens if you start from a regular screen recording. Over on the left-hand side are the different tabs where I can get to my favorites. We'll talk about how to add favorites. You can get to your media bin, your library with the different assets, annotations where you can add stuff onto the video and highlight and outline different things. You can add visual effects as well. Now notice that whenever I click on one of these tabs, it may have different tabs in here that separate out different things, like in this case, the visual effects and the filters. So we have filters that we can add to our videos. We have visual effects that we can add to our videos as well. We have different transitions that we can add. We have different animations that we can add, like zoom and pan, and regular animations as well. We have different behaviors that we can add to text and objects. We'll talk about all of these in detail in future videos. We have cursor effects if you wanted to highlight your cursor on different spots. We have audio effects like fade in, fade out, noise removal. We have voice narration, which allows you to narrate your video and insert audio right into Camtasia. And then finally, the closed caption option over here. Now this is our canvas. This is where we'll see wherever this playhead is. Down at the bottom is what we're going to be seeing on the canvas. Now, depending on what I have selected, I will see my properties panel change over on the right-hand side. It's going to allow me to see the different properties that I can change about whatever object I have selected, whether it be a video or audio file or something like that. So in this case, I can scale and do other things. We'll talk about how to animate and adjust some of those settings in a future video. We also have the ability to edit our audio. We can adjust our cursor, and you can edit the cursor path, so we'll come back to that. You can also hide the properties panel just by clicking on this button down at the bottom. We have our player controls here, so we can hit play and pause, rewind, or go back a frame. We can jump to a certain point in the timeline as well. Now down at the bottom are our timeline controls. So we have this playhead that will allow me to see whatever is visible at that point in time. I can take a screenshot, I can do different things like split the video, and I can also zoom in and zoom out on the video as well. So again, we'll talk about all those different controls. Now this is my timeline. I have different tracks where I can stack things on top of my video for it to be visible over the video. And you can see that my recording has started there as well. We also do have a top bar up here where I can create a new recording if I wanted to add to this recording. I can also expand this out and create an audio file with Audiate, and also Snagit if I wanted to use Snagit for my recordings, which we'll talk about. I have my canvas controls up here. So we have corner pin mode, we have our handbar, we have our edit, we have crop as well. And then the ability to export out something as well. And we can also check our downloads and anything that we've downloaded as far as assets go. So we've talked about one way of actually getting to this editor UI, but let's talk about other ways that we can actually get to this editor UI in the next video. Now that we've explored the UI, both the recorder UI and the editor UI, let's go ahead and talk about saving a project. So I'm going to pull up Camtasia here, and let's create a new recording really quickly. So I'm just going to leave this as is. We're going to record the screen, not the camera, the microphone, and not system audio. So let's go ahead and hit record. It's going to give me the countdown. Let's just open up a folder really quickly, and then close that folder just so we have something to work with, and then I'm going to hit stop there. Now, whether you create a screen recording or you just go right into the editor UI, the first thing I always do is save my project. So I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to go down to Save. And let's save this on my desktop real quick, and I'm going to call this Sample Project. Now, make sure that this is selected. Create Standalone Project allows you to move your files and have all your files that you use throughout your project in one location. We want to be able to do that so we can archive our project for later use. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that selected and then hit save. Now, if you close your project, there's a couple different ways that you can get back into that project. We have our sample folder right here, but inside of that folder, we have our Techsmith project and we have a TREC file as well. Now, the TREC file both contains the audio and the video in our screen recording. Whenever we bring files in, like images or audio files, it will also be placed inside of this folder. That way we can go ahead and just archive this folder with all of our project assets for later use. There's a couple different ways to open this project back up. So you can either double click on the Techsmith project right here. So that will pull up your project. Or if you just double click on the icon here, it will be in your recent projects as well. So make sure you save your project file. Now let's open up our project file one more time. And just so you can see that all of the files that I bring in are going to be placed inside of this folder, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a stock image. And we'll talk about how to do all of this in the next video. But I'm going to quickly bring in a stock image here. I'm going to save this, close out my project file here, and you can see that it made a copy of that image inside of my folder. The standalone project allows me to have everything contained inside of one location. Let's go ahead and quickly look at what this is going to look like on a Mac. So I'm on a Mac, and this is my home screen for the Mac. Let's go ahead and create a new recording really quickly here. What I'll do is I'll just preview this image real quick just so we have something moving, and then I'll stop recording. Now on my Mac, all I have to do is go up to File, and then Save, and we're going to call this Sample Project. Now this is the option to create a standalone project, but it looks a little bit different on a Mac. So I'm going to hit save here, and I can close out my project, and you can see that it's just one file. Even if I bring in an image, I bring in other files or other screen recordings, it's just going to keep it as one file. All of the content is still contained inside of that file, but all you have to do is keep track of that one file. So it makes it a little bit easier on a Mac. All right, so that's how we start, and that's how we save our project, and that's a little bit about the standalone project as well. Let's go ahead and just talk about all the different media that we can import into Camtasia in the next video. Now, so far we've only used the screen recordings, but we can also import media and use that in our timeline as needed. So I'm going to walk you through a couple different ways to import media, whether it's your own media, whether it's from a stock library or from the library.techsmith.com, which we'll talk about. So let's go ahead and import media. You can click on this plus icon, or you can go to File, Import, and then Import Media. Now notice Control I is a shortcut to be able to do that as well. All right, so I'm going to import something from my desktop right now. So there's an image right there. I'm just going to drag and drop that image. Now that image does not fill the entire screen. It's not the same size, but I could come in here and resize that. It still doesn't fill the entire screen, so I could overlap it a little bit and have it fill the entire screen as needed. But what will happen is it'll have the screen recording because I have it stacked on my timeline, and then it will pop open with that image. Now I can adjust the image or the video as needed by clicking and dragging the edges of the image. So if I only want this to show up, I can have it show up for a couple of seconds and then go away. Then I can drag and drop that and rearrange it on my timeline. So that's importing an image. Let's talk about importing live video. So I'm going to go back to import media. I'm going to double click on my live video. Notice the different categories. We have screen recordings, we have videos, and we have images. So it's automatically going to sort that for me. I'm going to drag and drop my video here. And there is my live video. And I can remove my recording if I wanted to and just have my live video. But if you recorded it on a camera, on your phone, or something like that, you can import it into Camtasia and you can edit that video right in Camtasia. We're going to talk about editing the video later, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Now, one other thing you can do is if you recorded something in Teams or you recorded it inside of Zoom or a different type of meeting application, you can also import that and then you can edit those recordings right inside of Camtasia. So let's go ahead and clear up our timeline. So I'm just going to click and drag and select all of the media there. And I'm going to hit the delete button in order to delete that. So let's import this new media file. And this is downloaded from Zoom. You can download it from Teams. You can download it from Zoom. All you have to do is have that MP4 file. Once you have that MP4 file, you can select that MP4 file no matter where it came from. And then you can import it and drag it down to your timeline inside of Camtasia. Now this screen recording doesn't start for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and just move my playhead to when it does start. Then I'm going to split the video, select that first part, and delete that. So you can drag that video to the beginning. That allows you to edit meetings. You can cut out the very beginning part and just have it get right to the content. So that's importing external media. You can work with a lot of different libraries wherever you get your images. If you're taking images yourself, if you're doing video yourself, if you're doing video with Zoom, if you're doing video with Teams. But Techsmith also has a library where you can get additional assets, and you can go to library.techsmith.com. Now this is where you can get templates, which we'll talk about later. You can also get videos if you wanted to have like backgrounds, motion backgrounds, footage, or other things like that. You can get images and icons, and then you can also get audio files. We're going to search for an image. I'm going to go back into Camtasia real quick. Let's go ahead and delete our Zoom recording, and I'm going to move my timeline back to the beginning here, and my playhead as well. Now I'm going to drag and drop this image here. Now let's say I adjusted this, everything is good, but I realized it's the wrong image. So I'm going to adjust this real quick. To replace the image, we first of all have to download the image here. So I'm going to search for Office here. And let's say we wanted to replace it with this. So clicking on this, we have a couple different options. We can download it, or we can send it directly to Camtasia. Now you do have to be logged into your Camtasia in order to do this. So I'm going to click on download for now. I'm going to go back into Camtasia. I'm going to right click on my timeline, and then I'm going to click on update media. Now, because I adjusted everything, I want to do this on my timeline. Let's go into my download section, and I'm going to select the image that was just downloaded. Now, I don't have to adjust anything else on my timeline. It now has the new image, and it's replaced that image inside of my media bin. But the media bin is really important when you're working with different types of media. You're working with screen recordings, you're working with live video, you're working with images. All of that is going to be saved inside of your media bin. So knowing how to import media, knowing how to update media inside of your media bin, and knowing how to sort and find the media is important when you're working with Camtasia. In the next video, we're going to be talking about creating a theme inside of Camtasia. So let's go ahead and do that next. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my project a little bit. So let's delete some of the stuff that we imported from the last video. Just so we have a clean project, I'm just going to have this one image that I have on the timeline for now. So we'll keep it at that. We'll also keep our screen recording there for now as well. Now we're going to be talking about themes and creating a theme. Now, themes come into play when you're working with annotations, you're working with text, when you're working with different templates as well. So we really haven't gotten into that, but we're just going to set up the theme and then we'll point out that theme as we go throughout the different videos here. I'm going to go into my themes. So going into File, let's go ahead and go down to Manage Themes. So you can see right here, our theme manager. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. Now it takes me to the default theme. This is Camtasia's theme. I can see exactly what the foreground color is, the background color, the accent color as well, the annotation background color. So which color do I want the annotations, like squares or circles or different shapes that I use inside of my video. I can also come into font. You can see what type of font is used. And I can go into logo and I can upload a logo as well. We're going to create our own theme. I don't want to mess with the default theme. So let's go ahead and add a new theme by clicking on the plus icon. Now my company is Learning Dojo. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a Learning Dojo theme. Now it will automatically shake up the different colors that I have, but I want to choose my own custom colors. Now the reason why we're doing this right now is because it will save you a whole lot of time when we start working with annotations, when we start working with different templates as well, and even fonts, because you can easily pick the theme and have that style all ready to go. So I'm going to choose a couple different colors. Let's keep the foreground as is. Let's keep the background color 1 as kind of like a nicer gray there. Let's do another background color, maybe as even a lighter gray or something. And then I'm going to choose a blue color for my Learning Dojo. Now I can add another accent color if I wanted to, and I can come in here and choose kind of a secondary color. Let me actually choose a yellow color. If I wanted to, I can also just enter in the exact text value and hit enter there. So that looks great to me. I'm going to keep the default annotation background as the accent 1, but I could come in and select it to accent 2 if I wanted to. All right, now let's go into fonts, and my main font for Learning Dojo is Open Sans. So I'm going to go down to Open Sans right here. Now let's choose a secondary font, which will usually be used for subtitles, but I can also swap that out for other things. So I'm going to select this drop-down box, and we're going to go down to Roboto, and that is going to be my secondary font. You can choose up to 2 different fonts. Now finally, I'm going to go into my logo, and we're going to bring in a logo that will sometimes be used if the template or whatever we're working with has a logo. Now this typically is best if you use like a square image. So I'm going to click on Browse here. I'm going to find my icon on my desktop right here. You can use whatever icon you want, and you can see that it's imported it right into this preview. The preview I can toggle if I want to see what it's going to look like on a light background, but the default is previewing it on a dark background. All right, so this theme looks good. It has my colors, it has everything that I want, so I can go ahead and click on Save. We're going to talk about annotations, we're going to talk about text, and I'm going to point out where you can use this theme. We're going to talk about templates as well. But just to show you really quickly, if you go into annotations, there is this option. Anytime you see this theme option, you can select this drop-down box, and now you can actually select the Learning Dojo theme. You can drag and drop whatever that object is, and it will automatically have that color. Also, over on the properties, under the annotations, I can select the theme and adjust the theme right there as well. I'm going to point out all the different areas as we go throughout that you can adjust the theme, including templates, which we're going to talk about next. This section has mostly been about starting out with Camtasia, exploring the UI, exploring what type of media we can import into Camtasia. So the last thing that I want to talk about in this section is starting from a template. Templates are useful to be able to get something very robust without having to do a lot of work at the beginning. There's a couple different ways that you can start from a template. You can go down to the templates here. We're not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to explore a couple of these and see how we can start from these templates. And you can see all of the different options that we have. So we have a floating screen, we have a mobile phone, a mobile background if you're going to be animating something like it's on a mobile phone. We have a tablet background, elevated app demo, so with some clouds around there as well. I'm going to go ahead and just do a floating screen for now. It's going to start a new project for me. All right, so there is my template. It automatically added some backgrounds for me as well. You can see on the canvas it's black, but on the timeline we do have some objects. So if I take my playhead, notice the animation that will come in, and notice the kind of swirling background color as well. So this is our placeholder. So once we have our media, we can just drag the media here to replace it. But you can also see it has some properties that we haven't gotten into yet, but I just wanted to point them out. It has a drop shadow and it has some corner rounding as well. That's how it gets the style, the drop shadow here and kind of the rounded corners. Now let's go ahead and explore this visual effect on the background. I'm going to hide this video real quick just by clicking the eyeball. And you can see it's kind of a combination of two different motion backgrounds. Let's see how this was done by double clicking into this group. And you can see here, it's basically just has two of them stacked up together. We're going to talk about groups and grouping different things together and adding different properties to get this type of effect. But if I select on this first one, you can see all the different properties that are available here. You can see the blend mode as well. You can see the vignettes. You can also see the size and other things. We're going to talk about all of that. Now to get back to my main timeline, I just click on the close button right here, and that will take me back to my main timeline. So I'm going to click on the eyeball here to bring my video back. Okay, so we need to create a screen recording. I'm going to go ahead and click on record. Now I want to have just some simple movement. We'll hit record here. I'm going to open up a folder. I'm going to go ahead and close out that folder. Let's wait till about the 10-second mark here, and then we'll hit stop. So you can see right here, this is your scene. Drag media here to replace. So all I have to do is grab that screen recording, drag it down until I see the green section there, and then it will give me this option, replace with clip speed. So you can see it has now replaced that placeholder, and it now has my screen recording, but with a nice visual background. So that is the benefit of starting with the template, is you get some nice visual effects without me having to build it all from scratch. One other area that you can find these project templates is by going into the library.techsmith.com. I'm going to go into Camtasia assets here, and you can see the template section. Let's go ahead and just click on the template section. Some of these are free, some of them are part of the premium, but a lot of them have these different intros and animations and other things that will happen that you can download, and you can replace content, you can replace the images, you can replace the text. And if anything, it also helps give you ideas of the different things that you can actually do. All of this was created inside of Camtasia, so all of these effects that you're seeing can be recreated inside of Camtasia. All right, so we're still going to work with templates in the future, but I just wanted to explore how to start a template, how to replace some media in the template, and explore a couple of the different templates in the library. We've covered a lot in this section, we've explored the basics, but let's go ahead and wrap up everything we've learned in this section in the next video.